My dear children, at the very outset, I welcome you all to this online class. Online class in schools and colleges is very important nowadays because we are confronting a pandemic and we know how to overcome such critical situations in life. And it also throws the struggle, the pain that we are facing and our capacity to overcome such issues. I know +2 students are very smart, active, enthusiastic, workaholic and dynamic. Today, we will learn a new poem, a poem of a well-known poet, a well-known poem of a well-known poet, John Keats. A thing of beauty is a joy forever, by John Keats. Before analyzing the poem in detail, it is necessary to learn the life and work of the poet John Keats. He was born in 1795 and died in 1821. See, only he died at the age of 26. So he was a British romantic poet. First of all, you should learn what is the significance of this romantic period. Romantic period is the period of the romantic era, an era of artistic movement. An era of artistic movements originated in Europe towards the end of 18th century. At the very beginning of the romantic period, or the first generation poets of the romantic period are mainly William Wordsworth and S.T. Coleridge. The romantic poetry actually is the poetry of sentiments, a poetry of emotions, a poetry of imagination and spontaneity. You know, romance is the language of love. All romance has one thing in common, that is caring the other person. The first generation romantic poets like William Wordsworth and S.T. Coleridge highlighted nature. You take the case of William Wordsworth, a worshipper of nature. In his view, nature is a teacher, a mother, a goddess, and the source of all inspiration. You know, all poets are poets of nature, as much as they all describe natural beauty. But Wordsworth is considered, the first generation romantic poet, Wordsworth is considered as the high priest in the temple of nature. He counteracted Christianity with a new religion called a nature worship. You know, a rose flower. In Wordsworth's view, a rose flower is no longer a mere rose flower. A rose flower covered with dewdrops is considered as a door or a window through which he got a glimpse into the world of reality. So he jealously and passionately loved nature. You know his famous poem, Daffodils. During one of his lonely wanderings, he came across a host of daffodils that is stretched in a never-ending line beside the lake and beneath the blue sky. And the daffodils and the wolves engaged in the dancing competition. And daffodils outshine the verse. And when he was in the midst of that daffodils, golden colored, bell-shaped daffodils, his whole mind, the poet's mind, Wordsworth's mind, transported into a realm of inexplicable and unutterable joy. But in course of time, in the long run, when he faced the hard realities of life, and he confronted intricate and complex problems of life, he thought, how happy when I was in the midst of that golden daffodils. Similarly, my dear students, in future, now you are okay, now you are happy, no issues, no problem, no tension, no worry. But when you face the hard realities of life, you may think your school life, how happy when I was in Padiyara, or I was in that school or this school. You may think like that. So, the first generation poets, Wordsworth and Coleridge together published many poems focusing the significance of nature. But now we are considering the poem of John Keats, the second generation of romantic poets. The second generation of romantic poets, like John Keats, Lord Byron and P.B. Shelley, highlighted the significance of beauty and revolutionary spirit. You take the case of the second generation romantic poet P.B. Shelley. Shelley was a revolutionary, and he showered bombshells of criticism against the ruthless and merciless exploitation of the upper class. And he turned against such injustice in the society. The second generation of romantic poets, Shelley questions injustice in the society. He wanted to create a classless society, a kingless society, a colorless society, a society free from all discriminations, caste, creed, color. He wanted to create an egalitarian society. And again, when he questions the upper class, when he questions the ruthless exploitation, people throw stones at him, calling him Machiavelli. But in his poem, Out to the West Wind, he wrote, if winter comes, can spring be far behind? If winter comes, can spring be far behind? That means the ugly atmosphere of winter season will give way to pleasant and beautiful spring season. You know, in winter season we can see the jagged outlines of dark clouds heralding winter storm. But in spring season, we can enjoy the fragrance of sweet smelling flowers. We can see sparrows are twittering in the blue sky. It is a very sunny, beautiful, and wonderful time. And winter season definitely give way to spring season. If you face a problem today, it will vanish in future. If you are unhappy today, you will enjoy happiness in course of time. Every disappointment will be turned a moment of happiness. So, Shelley criticized such ruthless exploitation. Again, in his poem, Song to the Men of England, he showered bombshells of criticism. And his exhortation to the people of England was that rise in revolution in demand of your constitutional rights and God-given rights. And he said to the poor people of England, rise in revolution for what? In demand of your constitutional rights, in demand of God-given rights. Actually, you are unaware of your constitutional and God-given rights. That is why the upper class is mercilessly and ruthlessly exploiting you. So, here we can see that Shelley injected revolutionary spirit, and his poem Song to the Men of England contains more proletarianism than the whole work of Karl Marx Das Kapital. And see, the second generation of poets, of romantic poets, Shelley encouraged, or he wanted to create a egalitarian society, an egalitarian society. And let us come to Keats, John Keats. And now you are going to study the famous poem of John Keats. And John Keats, while Shelley highlighted revolutionary spirits, Keats wanted to highlight beauty. He wanted to extol and eulogize, praise, highlight the significance of beauty. Keats wrote many poems. For example, The Eve of Saint Agnes, La Bella Dame Sans Mercy, La Bella, a beautiful lady, sans mercy. Sans means without mercy. So the title itself shows that a beautiful lady without pity, without mercy. So in the title itself, Keats shows that what we need is internal beauty. So actually, we need internal beauty, but he presents a beautiful lady without mercy. We need mercy. We need compassion and amity to the fellow being, but he presents a lady without mercy. So he indirectly he is saying what we require as internal beauty, a conglomeration or a synthesis or a mixing of beauty, exterior beauty and internal beauty is required in our life. So La Bella Dame Sans Mercy. Another one, Fancy. His another poem, Fancy, and Bards of Passion and Mirth. Another poem, Bards of Passion and Mirth. Passion, and he is a passionate lover of beauty, and at the same time, mirth, we need happiness, blith and mirth. So, passion and mirth. So, these are the important or the main poems of John Keats. In all these poems, we can see a common factor, that is beauty. Highlighting beauty, that means on the one side we can see beauty, and the other side what? Problems, depression, darkness, disgrace, ailments, disappointments and despondency. And he presents both these things. You see, in 1818, and as I said to you earlier, he died at the age of 26. He died in 1821. And in 1880, he fell in love with Fanny Brown. He fell in love with Fanny Brown, but he failed to marry her. Due to poverty, disease and hunger, he failed to marry her. You see, so his life, his whole life was surrounded by darkness. His whole life surrounded by disease, ailments, disappointments, problems, and tuberculosis took hold of him. So because of poverty and other problems, he can't marry her. So he was so sad. It reflected this sadness, this pain and internal agony reflected in his poems like The Eve of Saint Agnes and La Bella Dame Sans Mercy. So he wrote, I have two luxuries to brood over in my walks. He wrote, I have two luxuries to brood over in my walks. Your loveliness and the hour of my death. And the hour of my death. He wrote, see, death, you know, nobody can escape from the hour of death. The friend and the foe, the rich and the poor, all are equal before death. Yet, in order to survive such a situation, we face the reality and we philosophize. So, another poet wrote, when his close or intimate friend died, he wrote, O death, thou shalt die, we wake eternally. O death, thou shalt die, we wake eternally. At the time of resurrection, who will die? Death will die. At the time of resurrection, death will die. So such thoughts will encourage human beings. This is from poets' creativity and from imagination. And here also John Keats wrote, I have two luxuries to brood over my walks. In my walks, your loveliness and the hour of my death. On 13th October 1819, Keats wrote to his lover Fanny Brown, my love has made me selfish. My love has made me selfish. I cannot exist without you. I am forgetful of everything but seeing you again and again. You have absorbed me. I could be a martyr for my religion. Love is my religion. And I could be a martyr for my religion. Love is my religion. I could die for that. I could die for my religion, love. So let us start the present poem. A thing of beauty is a joy forever. A thing of beauty is a joy forever, taken from his famous poem entitled Endymion, a poetic romance. And the poet says that a beautiful thing is a source of endless joy. A beautiful thing is a source of endless joy. A beautiful thing provides eternal beauty, everlasting beauty, which never fades away. So once again, I repeat, this is the hard core, the central point, the kernel part of this poem. A thing of beauty is a joy forever. Here the poet says that a beautiful thing, a very beautiful, attractive thing is a source of joy. When we observe, for example, when we observe a beautiful flower covered with dewdrops, our whole minds will be transported into a realm of inexplicable joy, a realm of wonderland, wonderful things. So, a thing of beauty is a joy forever. It provides endless joy, which never fades. A beautiful thing like a shady shelter that the first generation, as I told you earlier, the first generation poet Wordsworth, when he was watching daffodils stretched in a never-ending line beside the lake and beneath the blue sky, his whole mind is transported into celestial joy. Similarly, a beautiful thing is like a shady shelter which gives us sleep full of sweet dreams, good health and relaxation. It provides us immense joy, relaxation, sweet dreams and good sleep. So here the poet points out that a thing of beauty is a joy forever. And who said this? You see the contradiction. The poet who wrote this poem, his mind was full of darkness. Darkness surrounded him and tuberculosis took hold of him. Even in the midst of these immense problems, the poet is saying a thing of beauty is a joy forever. There lies. So you as students, you must observe all these contradictions in his life. And you must think where study happens, where a poet can write poems in abundance, in affluence, in prosperity, or in sadness, or in utter despondency, that you have to decide. And he wrote this poem when he was took hold of by tuberculosis in the midst of utter ailment. And again, our attachment, and who provide all these beautiful things? And here the poet is mentioning that also is bestowed by God, bestowed by omnipotent, omnipresent, all-powerful God. You know, our God is the God of mercy. Our God is the God of amity. Our God is the God of compassion. Our God is the God of intervention. And that God, that omnipotent, omnipresent, all-powerful, and the God of intervention and the God of blessings bestowed all these things, these beautiful things. So, on the one side, we can see problems. On the other side, we can enjoy beautiful things. Here, the poet again points out that our attachments to the earthly things are like a flowery wreath. They are traps which bind us to the materialistic things and keeps us away from eternal happiness. Sometimes we are attached to worldly things, but actually what we need, an ascetic disattachment to worldly things is required in our life. Detachment is required. If we are materialistic, we are attached to these material things. And if we are more attached to these material things, we will move away from the Creator or God Almighty. But what we require in our life is an ascetic disattachment to life. Then only we get a joyful life. If we are attached to worldly things, then we will not get peace of mind. We can't enjoy the beautiful things that God created in this world. So, again, at the same time, the poet also mentioning that earth is a cruel place to live in. Earth is a cruel place to live in. The earth is full of hatred, full of greed, negativity, and most pernicious deeds going on here on earth. And the poet warns us that it is a cruel place to live in. Even though it is a cruel place to live in, there are beautiful things. We must focus our attention on these beautiful things. Then we will get peace of mind. Then we can enjoy our life in its full form. So according to the poet, the gloom and sadness caused by negativity. Why this gloom emerges? Because of negativity. And we will see some individuals in our life, and they always focus on negative things. Or we can see fault finders. These fault finders find fault even in paradise. They focus on negativity. And according to the poet, the root cause, the cogent reason for sadness and gloom is negativity. And negativity fades away the positive energy. What we need is positive energy. What we need is enthusiasm, courage, capacity and caliber. And negativity will mitigate or alleviate this positivity. So the poet advises that if we want to develop positive energy, we must learn how to enjoy the beautiful things surrounds us. We must develop a positive attitude, and with this positive attitude we can enjoy the beautiful things surrounds us. Lots of immense, innumerable beautiful things surrounds us, but we are unmindful of all these things. We are not watching all these things. We are focusing on negative things. But if we fill our heart with positivity, if we recharge the batteries of our minds with positivity, then we can enjoy the beautiful things surrounds us. Thank you.